It is Sunday evening. A teacher is sitting at the dining room table, rewriting a Tuesday morning science lesson for the third time. Adjusting the complexity of learning materials to match the readiness levels of different students is an essential practice in education. It is also an exhausting one. The research behind this practice is clear. Students who receive materials written exactly at their current reading level show higher comprehension and better retention. Teachers know this. Yet data shows they spend less than 15% of their prep time actually creating differentiated versions of their lessons. The reason is simple. Creating 3 distinct versions of a single document takes too long. This data comparison shows the reality of that time gap. Take Jessica, a second-grade teacher at a small Christian school. She spent 1 hour and 45 minutes on a Sunday night manually typing a simplified vocabulary sheet for her lowest readers. Because she ran out of time, she had no capacity to create a separate version to challenge her advanced students. Using a free Google tool called NotebookLM, that exact multi-hour task shrinks to 15 minutes. The Sunday night planning session is effectively over. Adopting this workflow removes the mechanical bottleneck of lesson preparation. It returns those recovered hours directly to human-centered teaching. Step 1 of the workflow starts by logging into NotebookLM and uploading your standard lesson plan. The system accepts standard PDFs, Google Docs, or text files. When educators hear about generative AI, they often worry about the output. Open internet AI tools are known to pull generic information, invent facts, or hallucinate concepts that do not belong in your curriculum. This diagram illustrates NotebookLM's walled garden architecture. The tool is completely restricted to reading the exact document you provide. Because it cannot access the internet to add outside information, generated terms and questions stay locked within the scope of your objectives. Looking at the chat interface, the next step is pasting in a very specific steering prompt. You ask the tool to use the uploaded materials to create 3 distinct study guides, one for grades 3-4, grades 5-6, and grades 7-8. You then give the prompt rigid constraints. You instruct it to format each guide as a 1-page document, containing a short summary, exactly 3 comprehension questions, and 5 defined vocabulary terms. Those vocabulary terms are the critical variable. Reading comprehension research identifies vocabulary knowledge as the single strongest predictor of a student's ability to actually understand a text. This text comparison demonstrates the reading level gap. A 7th grade sentence reads, "Photosynthesis is the process by which plants convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into glucose." A 3rd grade reader hits a wall on 4 words in that sentence. A leveled version reduces the friction. Plants make their own food using sunlight, water, and air. The core concept remains identical, but true access requires providing definitions for those foundational terms, so the lower-level reader can actually enter the lesson. Using AI to define these leveled vocabulary terms handles the most exhausting step of manual differentiation. It clears the path for struggling readers to access your curriculum. Within roughly 30 seconds, NotebookLM generates all 3 leveled study guides simultaneously in a single response. This leads directly to step 3 of the workflow, reviewing and refining the output. You read the generated guides, checking if a question is too easy for the 8th graders, or if a definition is too complex, instructing the tool to adjust them. Reading and adjusting the output is a professional and spiritual requirement. A teacher cannot outsource their judgment to a piece of software. You maintain accountability for what enters the classroom. Think of the human-tool relationship like a skilled craftsperson in a workshop. A power saw speeds up the cut, but the woodworker completely dictates the angle, the depth, and the final shape of the timber. The faithful use of this workflow means treating the software strictly as a drafter. The teacher remains the final decision maker. The final step of a workflow is mechanical. You copy the approved text, paste it into a word processor, apply your standard formatting, and print the guides. When Jessica, the 2nd grade teacher, ran this exact workflow on her water cycle unit, her previous 1 hour and 45-minute chore was finished in exactly 14 minutes. This chart scales that time-saving metric across a full school year. The average teacher spends roughly 86 hours a year manually adapting materials. By reducing that mechanical labor by 75%, this workflow recovers nearly 65 hours of time. For a Christian educator, recovering those hours presents a direct question of time stewardship and vocation. Spending Sunday night typing out vocabulary definitions creates a margin deficit. It absorbs mental bandwidth that could be directed toward individual students, replacing much-needed rest with an attention cost that actively drives teacher burnout. In the parable of the talents, the master rebukes the cautious servant not for hoarding, but for failing to invest what he was given. Burying your available hours in mechanical formatting tasks when a tool exists to multiply that time is a failure to invest your irreplaceable gifts where they actually belong. The purpose of this tool is the space it creates. It leaves you with a very clear question. What will you do with those recovered 65 hours? And which students in your classroom need that reclaimed human presence?